Thank you very much for tuning into the Rafay YouTube channel. And this is our first time we're actually covering our user or customer stories on this show. This is the first series of the beginning of the Rafay podcast, where we talk with our customer, share their stories, how they are using Kubernetes, how they are using our managed services, and running and solving their day-to-day challenges. So let's set the agenda first. Now we have reached a point where the adoption and understanding of Kubernetes and Kubernetes tools are mature enough to start hiding them away from the teams consuming them. This podcast explores some of the approaches different development tools take to provide a better and simplified experience for developer while allowing platform teams to curate the resources these tools use and how they behave. On this very first episode, we are joined by, for the first week customer stories, Bala Krishna Allah, principal solution engineers at MoneyGram, tune into explore the Kubernetes challenges that the MoneyGram team faced and how they launched a fully functional Kubernetes operation practice in less than 3 months, eliminating the complexity of Kubernetes and deploying more modern application into AWS faster. So without further delay, let me go straight to my first guest for the first episode, Bala. Thank you very much for being on the show. Can you introduce yourself to my audience? Bala, can you hear us?
Yes. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Rafay, for giving this opportunity. Good morning. Yes, I can hear.
Yes, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. Yes, Bala, I can hear you.
So, yeah, myself, this is Bala, and Sam already gave the introduction. So,
Thank you, thank you. So let me give a little bit about background of uh, our first guest. A very warm welcome to this show, Bala Krishnala. He has been for more than a decade on platform engineering, maintaining various technologies starting from legacy technology stack, WebSphere, TIBCO, to next generation stack, Couchbase, Kafka, Kubernetes, leading SRE team in MoneyGram as of today. For first question on the very first episode, Bala, do you think there's a necessity of a time that hiding Kubernetes from developer is clearly where the industry is going?
yes, I do think that's where industry is clearly moving towards. Whenever we talk about Kubernetes, I see Kubernetes applications. Just give me a minute, Sam. There is a delay in the video. Sorry.
Okay, okay, no, no worries, no worries.
Oh, man.
Yes, but you can skip. We can listen to you very wonderfully well.
Okay. Are you able to hear me now, Sam?
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So, hope it's clear now.
Yes, 100% clear. I can hear you very well. So you can go ahead.
Sam, are you able to hear me? Can you confirm?
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. But I can hear you. I can hear you very well. Okay. I think audience, if you are able to see, I think we don't have an issue hearing your
Okay.
voice. You can go ahead.
Yeah. Just to reiterate, yes, I do think that's where the industry is clearly moving towards. Whenever we talk about Kubernetes, I see Kubernetes orchestration system as an implementation detail, basically. Hence, it's basically we need to hide it. Kubernetes basically it provides more functionality than an average developer actually needs. So I have been working with Kubernetes for a year now, and off top of my head, I can only name very few objects out of around total 50 plus basically. So developers don't care basically how many replicas and how many services are running or what roles it has or whether it's running via stateful sets or what all the things that's included on all this all the stuff. All the care is about getting an HTTP endpoint that helps deliver a product. Basically, as a result, some operators choose to hide Kubernetes inside the CI/CD pipeline so that devs don't get bogged down by Kubernetes minuet. They simply push code to GitHub and the rest is taken care of for them. That's how I see. Even if the developers are fluent in Kubernetes, operators may be reluctant to give them unfettered access to a cluster since small changes can have outside ripple effects. For instance, as changing the resource limit for a pod or container, I mean, that would cause other deployment issues that are scheduled to the same pods. So in many organizations, operators will provide an intermediary layer, either with a DSL or a separate API to restrict what developers can modify and maintain, having the tighter control of the cluster. I have heard it said that Kubernetes makes easy things hard and hard things possible. This is true both in production as well as development. For example, it's easy to make a highly available stateless app on Kubernetes, but comparatively hard to do something simple like get the errors for a pod, basically. So it is critical to hide it from the developers.
Thank you very much, Bala, for the wonderful answer to my question. So I think when we think about what we achieve for developer in Kubernetes, we were able to build a tool like, let's say, Kubernetes Lens, K9s, and other managed offering in the cloud, and many other open source project, creating environment in a declarative way or managing a complex application by running using a simple Kubernetes resource. We have removed the need for developers to understand how Kubernetes works and how they need to combine concepts like deployment, ingresses, services to achieve what they need. So the next question around for Bala is building the bridge between the abstraction we have made in our clusters and platforms and how those abstraction can enable richer developer experience.
Well, whatever the tool that any organization can pick, right, that should work together to experience that's focused mostly on improving developers' performance. And this is how basically it should work, is how I think. When the developer requests the environment, okay, the development team request environment to work on a change by interacting with the platform's API or the platform portal to start with. Then the platform, then the environment details comes into play. Okay, so how I think about it is the platform provisions a new environment and provides credentials to the development team to connect and work with it. And the environment has all the tools necessary that needs to work inside it. That can include other services, mock data, the platform encode, all these details behind the platform APIs, which is all the overhead that we need to take out, basically. Then it comes how to connect to the environment. After giving the environment details, we need to say them how to connect the environment from the, then validate the changes what the developer has made. Then also it's important to keep track of the release and changes, right? Say, for example, if the organization uses a trunk-based development approach, merging a new change will create a new release for the application. Then that can trigger for the platform to know that there are new candidates to be promoted to more sensitive environments. Then from here on, the platform is responsible for keeping the development team up to date with what is going on with their changes. After releases are created, teams like QA or EAT can happen and report back their findings, right? I mean, that's all simplicity we need to think about this. So, but when you promote a release to production, when the organization is ready to promote a change in front of all the users, a promotion process should begin at that point. This process can be as complex as the organization needs, including manual validations or automated tests. The process can use a GitOps and automated approach to track all the steps that needs to be performed, basically. If using a GitOps approach, this usually means a pull request to the repository, right? That contains the changes in configurations to promote the new versions being promoted. So while the platform chosen by any organization is directly responsible for validating the changes and providing the feedback to development teams while keeping track of release or changes, the platform also directly influences how developers do the work while interacting the platform provision environments. Hence, it's very important, with all this said, it's very important to enable richer developer experience, taking away the learning curve as much as possible, using the technologies in a right way and letting the technologies do the hard work.
Thanks, Bala, for the wonderful insight about why do we need a richer developer experience as of today now. So I think unfortunately there's a no single answer to what tool you should promote around developers. Some might want to only code in Java, to end user IDEs or Node.js and VS Code, and some might want to also create their containers and use kubectl to deploy to their local environments. Learn how to use tools like Docker for containers and kubectl to interact with Kubernetes. In that case, you immediately align with how to deploy workloads in all major cloud providers. But this knowledge comes with the downside. You need to invest time to acquire it, and training course or certification. Things like creating secure and lightweight containers image take not only time but also experience. You need to mess up things several times to learn some hard lessons. So now the next questions for Bala: how the platform and the platform team can assist developers in being more efficient by automating tasks, and more important question, how to observe what tasks to be automated.
Good question. So basically, a robust continuous integration and delivery pipeline is a critical part of any platform team's tool chain, basically, right? It provides an automation engine that can trigger templatized workflow to build, test, and deploy code on development, QA, staging, and production finally, right? At an even higher level, a mature CI/CD pipeline can serve as a control plane coding, for coding, enforcing, and measuring business priorities in development. So CI/CD is the key factor that saves developers time and improves the development process. It forms the core of a platform engineering toolkit that enables self-service model, reusability, and other key principle of platform engineering methodologies. So I think the platform engineering is a powerful tool for scaling up software delivery process without sacrificing quality, security, or efficiency. By simplifying the automating resource provisioning and management, it really enables developers to ship more value to customers in less time. I mean, that's where obviously, irrespective of what the knowledge is, right? That's where Kubernetes shines. As long as it is containerized, that's all Kubernetes cares, right? It doesn't matter what language you write. It's Node.js, it's Java, I mean, it's Python. It doesn't matter to Kubernetes. All it needs is it needs to be containerized in a right way, following the best practices. That's all it needs. It takes care of it, basically.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, abs- so absolutely. So, can you share some of the guidelines and best practices you have observed during your career leading large-scale teams?
So, yeah, sure. Number one, I mean, from the implementation of Kubernetes, I would say choose the right platform to manage Kubernetes basically as a complete platform in an organization. And I recommend to go with vendor managed or vendor hosted. I mean, like there's a lot out there, but I think Rafay being one of the first few, it's like vendor managed Rafay, I would say. And by doing that, basically by using the external resource hosting, if you kickstart the Kubernetes deployment, depending on the type of hosted service you choose, the team won't have to deal with manually provisioning the control plane component, adding the nodes to X. I mean, all these things which are manual, those overhead is gone already. I mean, we are going to cut short almost 70% of the overhead because the managed platform team, whoever we went with, obviously they already took care of all the heavy lifting for us, right? So they one of the big thing is security. They won't have to implement role RBAC to secure the separate environments or instruct monitoring and logging for the cluster, right? So number one, first thing I would say is choose the right platform to manage Kubernetes. Second thing is use always try to be on the latest version of Kubernetes and try to stay up to date because Kubernetes releases are basically sequential. You can go one release at a time. You cannot jump the upgrades like a lot of technologies support out there, right? The more you wait, the more complex it is to upgrade the Kubernetes platform, is how I see. I mean, with the couple of years that I've been worked, right? In addition to updates and additional features, the latest releases, as many of you know, it has all the patches, security issues, and all those things. So it is critical for mitigating any of the vulnerabilities out there that could affect your cluster, because Kubernetes, it's an open source and it is highly vulnerable. And also, if you stay on older versions for longer time, you don't get much support from the Kubernetes community, right? So similarly, along with this too, yeah, I have a lot, but I'll just keep it short. Using the version control systems is a key thing to get the success, right? And when you use Kubernetes, try to use labels and annotations as much as possible so that you can get things in a right way, organized in a right way. And when you deploy any application, make sure you use liveness and readiness probes, which make sure the application always does what it's supposed to do. And setting the resource limits and the request, which is a key factor in Kubernetes. Basically, you cannot just give infinite resources, even though we say it's cloud, right? Cloud is not infinite here, basically. Anything. So we need to limit the request and limits. We can set it. We need to set the expectations to every team so that they know what the expectation is and they can stay well within the limits, and they can make sure they build the application using the best practices, right? And use the smaller container images, which is the key thing. The efficient the containers are, the more effective the orchestration platform will be, right? From the auto scaling perspective, or from scale up, scale down, or node scaling up, there's a lot of underneath magic that's going to happen, right? You'll see very good performance if the smaller container images are used. And monitoring, which is very key for Kubernetes, right? So monitor the control plane components. Even though control plane is managed, it's always better to monitor. Use auto scaling. That's a key advantage of Kubernetes. Use auto scaling depending upon what your needs are. When you say auto scaling, a lot of people think it's infinite. No, even that is min and max, basically. So know what you're scaling. Do proper basically math and try to scale the resources or allocate the resources whatever your max is, basically, so that we don't get into negative scenarios. And adopt GitOps, basically, which the industry moving towards. Basically, adopt GitOps is one of the thing I can say. And monitoring the disk usage, that's one of the miss people do. I just want to add that as well. And basically, when you start using Kubernetes, right, start with stateless applications. Don't just jump into the advanced concepts. Start with stateless application, which is easier, first of all, to start the Kubernetes journey before even introducing like stateful sets or jobs, or the cron jobs or those type of things. Start with stateless applications. Obviously, get the success first of migrating at least 10 to 20 applications. Try to understand how things work. Then move to introducing stateful applications or stateful sets, basically. And last but not least, security, which is very key, that needs to be looked at when using Kubernetes, right? I think by default, if you lose open source, we won't get by default all the security, right? Say, for example, RBAC, one of my favorite, when I evaluated the products, Rafay, it has very seamless integration with single sign-on, where we just go and add one field, single sign-on is enabled, and I'm locking down my cluster. Don't run the containers as root. I think I would say that as a security, right? And from day one, try to be in a zero trust environment, basically, which is very important for Kubernetes running in cloud. Restrict the API access as much as possible, as well as the SSH access. Enable the audit logs to track each and everything. And use network policies wherever necessary to restrict access to service within the Kubernetes cluster. So these are some of the best practices. I know I covered a lot, but these are some of the best practices that's available to help make Kubernetes an easier and more valuable system to use in the modernization of the applications. Nonetheless, there's still a lot to learn to use Kubernetes effectively. That can be overwhelming for development teams already bogged down with many tasks, right, which is required to modernize application development. Even with the ever-growing number of tools and services to accelerate the process entirely, that's why many organizations with complex application development projects choose to partner with companies like you, basically, that has depth and breadth of expertise and experience in using Kubernetes. And I'm glad we have partnered, as I said, with Rafay to get our success in our cloud migration journey.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. I think that's where the best practices need. You need, like, you should talk about network policies. You talk about RBAC, because cluster is not accessed by one person. These accessed by teams, might be 10 developers, 20 developers, and might be the different teams developing the application. And sometimes you see a silos of the silos of the team. They work in the different remote region across the world, and the platform teams work in a different remote region. The dev and ops don't know what they're actually tackling to. And that you need a tool like that's give the RBAC access to the resources that I think they give you a job, how the job actually done with the least privileges access. And that's why we donated the Parallels open source project to the community. We know there's not just one customers, but all the community also needed this kind of capabilities. And we donated this project to the CNCF as a sandbox, and we have a call previously on that community call as well. So that's where all the practices begin. And as we're talking about, like, we have an organization, like what cluster I can access, what cluster you can access, what cluster do I operate on, how, when I operate, all these kind of necessity, and network policy, security, zero access management. And these are the capabilities that the Rafay is actually giving their customers very, very wonderfully well as of today. And we are very happy to see our customers actually getting most value out of these features as well. So another question that's really important for me to learn from you is that one of the big challenges that we can face very often is silos. What should be done to avoid creating the silo within the organization?
Well, the open communication across the cross-functional teams will be the key factor. I mean, that will help to avoid creating the next silo in my mind, right? When the right folks or teams are combined under the same organization, because in the organization you can have a number of teams to start the silo in first place, right? So when the right folks or teams are combined under the same organization, you end up with the right technology being implemented for the right reasons, helping the business succeed, basically. That's very important. Not only that, basically the equipment and that will be installed and configured with the best possible implementation, as well as it will be maintained by a team of people who understand how everything works together as a system, which is very key thing for any company, right? So it's like we'll stop staring at the screws that holds the racks together, arguing about how much stock to apply, and start seeing the center as an information engine that makes the business go, basically, right? An engine we built. So coming together as a team will be succeed at the end is all I can say. I mean, so bottom line, what I'm trying to say is keep the communication open across cross-functional teams and help each other, which will be the key factor.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And one of the challenges we saw with talking to our customers is like the silos, and how do we actually our platform can reduce those silos is one of the features I really like about in our product, and one of the managed providing is giving you the organization, like what are the part of the organization, because in the organization you have multiple roles, you have multiple clusters, and the multiple teams. By logging into the office dashboard, this give you the accessibility to see, I am the part of organization, let's say I am the part of the health organization, I am part of the team, let's say development, I have three cluster that I can operate. So that is actually, I think I would definitely see more and tools and more Kubernetes operation platform try to add this functionality in their platform. And that's really reduce the silos, because now everybody can see this is a member of this organization, and if he's actually operating the cluster, this is the person I can talk to. And in Kubernetes, this is a huge pain. You don't see which cluster is Bala is operating and which cluster is Saim is operating. And that's where the silos is actually introduced. And we want to reduce those silos as well. So we talk about silos. Can you draw some point? Because the DevOps movement is currently is saying is the critical aspect to reduce silos between various teams. Creating another team sound like the opposite of that, and you should be careful about not creating another silos within your team. So for the next obvious question is, like, what is the effective way for the cross team collaboration within your organization?
Yeah, since with regards to the specific topic, right? Since deploying a complicated product like Kubernetes, I would say on a such a large scale is an intimidating feat. First of all, right? It is imperative that teams must be highly collaborative, constantly communicating, and continuously work towards the common goal of managing Kubernetes at a scale. That's number one, right? So me coming leading the SRE team is just one piece of puzzle. While the SRE is on the front line of managing and maintaining the clusters, our success would be impossible without dozens of teams that work on things, including development of containerized application that runs on Kubernetes, maintaining CLIs that are used to interact with the clusters, right? Creating tooling to see the manage various aspects of the fleet in one place, and supporting the questions or issues that our users bring to us as a platform team. So, in addition to the numerous engineers working on these tasks and other teams help by consuming our product, so it's very important to be transparent and keep the open communication between cross-functional teams to be successful as an organization to implement this in a right way.
Yes, absolutely. And what a Kathy Graham is on the chat, the YouTube, and she's saying there's a great information so far. So thank you for joining, Kathy. We really appreciate it. So let's go the next question. I think the crux of this story is that platform teams should also join other teams to understand how they operate and the challenges they face. This also help in understanding how the customers use the platform, and that can help in improving it. So the final few question from you is, do you think is the bare minimum required for solving the day 02 Kubernetes challenges, and what needed to be done for the best Kubernetes building a best Kubernetes platform?
Yeah, I want to start with saying Kubernetes is complex and it's a beast if you want to learn ourselves and implement it than relying on a platform, right? So a lot of companies release this late. Okay, so late in the game, and I'm very glad to start with that we took right measure and steps to address this day two Kubernetes issue, and we are happy we did this basically. That is by picking the centralized management platform, which is a must for any organization. I keep saying that because we spent almost a year and a half, year and 1 year, 1 year. I mean, we didn't go anywhere. Automating through the CLI, staying agnostic where the Kubernetes is. It may run in Azure, it may run in GCP, it may run in Amazon, it may run in on-prem. Doesn't matter. As long as it's Kubernetes, you're golden, basically. And monitoring and logging, which is, I keep reiterating, that's very important. And GitOps for CI/CD integration. And having a team of centralized Kubernetes skills will be a key factor because it's complex and it's basically a learning from one another. Is so as organizations move towards their Kubernetes migration journey and manage day two operations, the demand for Kubernetes skills only increases. It never decreases because it's hard, right? And organizations typically mediate the developers' load and support the high demand through the extensive training. But the path has challenges unique to every enterprise, right? So in these scenarios, I see the organization's right strategy would be building central team of Kubernetes expertise that can handle operational tasks while supporting the typical development teams. So when I say central teams, right, central teams will act both as developers and administrators and reduce the number of people required to support the entire day two journey by using the right platform. Doing this way, I feel, I mean, and basically we already see success, and by doing all this this way, it brings success in my mind, since a lot of heavy lifting is already handled by centralized managed platform is how I see this.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a key for building a best Kubernetes platform. So, final question before I let you go. You and your team at MoneyGram looking for a platform, and what are the different aspects you can think about? Because at Rafay, we're giving consistent automation, centralized visibility, centralized policies enforcement, and security preparedness. So, while working with application on top of Rafay managed Kubernetes platform, what do you what do you see the best, and what you recommend the most for the people who are listening to us?
So to start with, I want to start right. We are very glad that we have chosen Rafay to be our management platform of Kubernetes. So if you think the MoneyGram journey towards it, we spent 1 year doing our own. Basically, we started using Rancher, and we spent 1 year back in the 2019, and it's a lot of. By the time we want to get an application, a new version comes up. By the time we get a new version comes up, so obviously, right, most of you who works in Kubernetes knows we need to do at least 3 upgrades in a year, at minimum, basically, to stay up to date. And upgrade is not easy. A lot of people think, okay, okay, EKS, it's fully managed. It is only control plane is managed, not anything else. We need to look at all the other factors. If you use monitoring or if you use any other logging, if you use security, everything is a different module in Kubernetes that needs to be upgraded as well, along with Kubernetes upgrade, right? So in MoneyGram, I mean, we have Rafay for almost over 2 years, and we have deployed 300 plus applications in less than 2 years without any major issues, believe it or not. So that's a big success we have. And using Rafay, we are able to really build enterprise standards from day one because we started rolling out brand new clusters with Rafay when we don't have anything, basically. And we templated our complete CI/CD to remove the learning curve of Kubernetes from day one to development teams. All they know is they know how to develop a Spring Boot application, click the button in CI/CD, the templatized, the templates what we build will containerize and deploy it. They don't need to know anything about containers. They don't do anything. All they do is they know before building the Spring Boot, they know how to build the Spring Boot event today. That's it. And we implemented zero trust model by locking down our complete environment from day one, basically, and fully secured. It's only accessed internally. And as I mentioned, security and governance is a top priority being a financial industry, right? So we have implemented single sign-on with enterprise identity from day one. We secured our kubectl access. We implemented RBAC and system and kubectl audits, right? So pre-Rafay, you believe it or not, like many organizations may have faced before they picked any management platform, we struggle to even install the kubectl on local, and we need to update almost every month, and it's hard to get it up running because there's a lot of things, dependencies involved, starting from AWS CLI, a lot of things basically involved, and it is pretty much open, wide open to everyone in the organization, which we really don't need basically because it's not secure to give away the kubectl access to everyone when it's not needed, right? And auditing, it's really tough. The reason is we create a simple role and we share the same role across everyone. Now, where's the security, right? And we rolled out one ALB for each application. Think about it, staying in a microservice architecture. How expensive is it to roll out a single load balancer for each and every application using Terraform, right? So what we have done is, believe it or not, I mean, so with 300 applications, we use only one load balancer. We don't use more than one. And we use the advanced features provided by Nginx Plus, and we use a lot of advanced features. One load balancer, we try to use the power of cloud, basically, right? And because we have Rafay in place, we can focus these type of things instead of focusing what to do and maintain, and instead of maintaining a single big team that knows about Kubernetes. Now we rely on an army of people behind us who are experts in Kubernetes that's going to help us if we run into any Kubernetes specific issues, and just instead we just focus on business and just try to use the platform in the right way, right? So from past 2 years, we performed 3 upgrades without any major issues. We are already up to date. While all this migration progress, we not stop upgrades. We keep doing the upgrades three times, right? It's very critical to stay up to date since we see Rafay team as a second line of defense, right? The reason I say second line of defense is open source Kubernetes is released, then it comes to AWS. Even though AWS releases it, we will not see it. It goes to Rafay. Rafay test on top of what AWS releases EKS. I mean, because on VKS, I'm talking about EKS. And then we take whatever the Rafay releases. Right. So basically, we have how many testing? AWS tested, Rafay tested, and we'll take from Rafay and we deploy it, right? So that's how much confidence level we'll have, and keep going the upgrades every quarter, every 3 to 4 months. We keep upgrades basically. So yeah, I think that's how Rafay helped us a lot, and yeah, I can keep going, but yeah, I'm glad that we are in this state right now, and we are also now taking into advanced capabilities like bringing the stateful sets, Kubernetes jobs, and all these things. And yeah, we have been very successful partnering with Rafe, and I'm glad that we have chosen the platform.
Thank you very much. It's mean a lot to us and the team who are actually building this solution on top of it. I think if the team is listening to us and watching us, they really feel proud about it. And that's, I think, what the thing you spoke about. Kubernetes releases 3 times a year. And remember the days when they releases 4 times a year and the community give better feedback. This is huge pain. We actually sacrifices our Christmas, the Eid, and everything to make Kubernetes up to grade. So it's challenging. It's not easy. You need some kind of solution. And I think one of the biggest solution that I can see it centralized visibility, policy enforcement, the network policy, and the service mesh, and plus the security preparedness from the day 01. I think these are the features that gave us a number one managed Kubernetes platform according to the GigaOM Radar report 2023, and that's just for the our mission of being helping customers and the companies around the world with the day to operation Kubernetes make more easier for them. But I think having heard from you, it's really a wonderful motivation as we're going for the KubeCon and talking to more customer as well. So before I let you go, the final question from my side is why you think organizations should build a platform for Kubernetes, and how by building a platform for Kubernetes can bring success for the organization working on Kubernetes?
Very good, very good question. So the platform engineering, I mean, obviously, right? It's emerging technology approach that can accelerate the delivery of applications and the pace at which they produce the business value, right? Hence, it's very important for any organization to build a platform team for Kubernetes for various reasons. I would say not one or two, right? Because having a platform team can focus key areas. I mean, like you can increase the innovation basically by abstracting the Kubernetes operations as well as other facets of modern infrastructure management. We can increase the innovation by doing a lot of different things, right? And the platform product mindset, the platform engineering will have that mindset. Basically, platform teams, they take the product approach to automate and governance, and the platform engineers continuously implement and apply reliable proven practices by delivering internally consumable shared services platform. They enable an organization's digital backbone, and continuously see and allow developers to do what they do the best, right? And operationalizing the efficiency and process optimizations, right? Basically, the automation repeatability are foundation principles for a platform team. No one should spend time and resources on work that can be coded or automated, right? This includes leveraging any operations platform or services wherever possible instead of rebuilding everything from scratch. Just focus on what you're supposed to do, right? And self-service, that's one of the key things. I mean, which can be taken care of by platform team. The platform team can give developers, QA, and ops users the tools they need to help themselves. The legacy model of multi-week timelines for environment creation is dead, is what I see with this Kubernetes. And continuous ongoing training and development, right? The platform teams enable and empower the rest of the organization to develop new skills around modern infrastructure, operations, providing employees a great growth opportunity. So I see that's where the industry is moving towards, having the platform engineering team focusing on the key areas will be very critical, and that's the future is how I see.
Thank you very much, Bala. It's been a wonderful appreciation. Really appreciated your time and the story that you shared to us. It really means a lot because the team is building behind the scene, making some effort, progress on daily basis, and they wanted to learn from these stories as well because they really need a motivator like this story that you have shared with the MoneyGram for our team as well. So I think what I like to see is that if you're looking for the solution, like if you want centralized automation, if you want centralized visibility, if you want centralized policy enforcement and government, if you want a security preparedness for the day zero one, and if you need a multi cluster management service and some costing as well, then you are very good and you go to the Rafay.co, because we package this all solution in a one umbrella or the one box for you, so you can actually pick and choose and you have everything ready. You might not need, let's say, multi-cluster management as of today, but as soon as you need it, we already have it. So go to the Rafay.co. We provide a centralized automation, centralized visibility, centralized policy enforcement, and security preparedness from day zero one, and multi-cluster management service, providing all the feature enterprises need to manage the entire life cycle of Kubernetes cluster deployed in data centers, public clouds, remote, and edge locations. So with that, I will conclude our first podcast with Bala. Is platform can not only work in the technical realm, they need to improve how software is delivered. This need to be backed up by factual data that the organization can use to justify new initiatives and investment. And platform teams must thoroughly understand all of their internal users' personas and their needs and develop the right kind of backend and user interfaces for the platform that deliver maximum values to the all of their internal user. With that, I will conclude this first episode, and that is wonderful day. We started the first podcast with Bala from the MoneyGram. We learned a lot about it. Thank you very much, Bala. We really appreciated your time. Hope to see you again sometime in the future with more discussion around platform and Kubernetes. With that, thank you very much for listening to us. And thank you very much for who are actually tuning into this channel. We will be meeting again in some time after the future. But if you are happen to be in KubeCon, come meet us at booth S74, because we are the number one Kubernetes management platform according to GigaOM Radar report of 2023. And you should, and you definitely want to meet number one Kubernetes team. I think that is you are actually checking an eye out. So booth S74 is a place where we all be in. With that, thank you very much. Stay safe, stay healthy. Have a wonderful Kubernetes journey.
Thank you.